And we're back. Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. It's a Thursday afternoon. I did press go live some time ago, and we were stuck in the blue circle of death for a wee while there, Chris. So apologies if we're 20 or 30 seconds late, and apologies that JP Mason is not joining us on his usual Thursday show. Today I'm joined by Chris McElwain, aka Double Denim. Not sure why they call you that, mate. And also Lawrence Conley, who is dialing in live from the Skylark Bar, looking resplendent in your Irish tracksuit top there, your Irish heritage tracksuit top, Lawrence Conley. What do you make of the new kit, the away one?
Is this the yellow with the green horizontal stripes on it?
Yes.
It's a bit busy, isn't it? But I'm sure Adidas have done the research and it'll sell. And it'll be one of, I don't know, will it be 5 this season again? Do you know?
I hope not. I hope not.
Home away. I thought just kind of plain yellow, like, was it 87, 88 was plain yellow or something? European strip.
Yeah.
I thought that was nice. Emerald green shorts, wee yellow diagonal flash on them, yellow socks, green tops. I thought, nice classic away strip.
Yeah, nice and simple. Keep it simple, lads. Yes, you're right. Unfortunately, yesterday we were given some sad news during the bulletin that the late, great Tommy Burns' widow, Rosemary, passed away. And we didn't mention it on the show because you don't want to do these things until you 100% are sure that that is the case. So, thoughts and prayers, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, with all of Tommy and Rosemary's family and all the friends that they have as well. Horrible news, really, really something that, we had 3 of their children in the studio a couple of years ago talking about the brilliant play that's been put on about Tommy's life. And it was just an absolute pleasure to be in the same room as these people. And they were reminiscing about their old man and all that at the time. So really sad news, and thoughts and prayers with everyone at this time. We're going to be obviously talking about the Celtic, the transfers, the upcoming games. Chris McElwain, there seems to be a wee bit of movement. It's like the Titanic trying to turn a corner here, right? Wee bit of movement on the old ADAM IDAH. Lawrence has obviously worn his Irish heritage tracksuit top in respect of the fact that IDAH could well be their first summer signing coming into Celtic Park. But if the reports are true, Chris, and we've played that wee £4 million bid in as the initial one, what's your take? We need to up the ante. We know that, don't we?
Well, as the old saying goes, all good things come to those who wait. So the fans, including ourselves, have been quite patient. We've been looking forward to seeing a bit of movement. And it looks like IDAH, who I think is an easy win for the club, right? And an easy win for the manager, because he's a player that the fans have taken to. Really big moment last season, as we know, to get us over the line and win the title and win the cup. And I think that it's a safe but sensible signing. It's a player that has command, is adapted to the club, knows what it's about, has been able to rise to the pressure, has made an impact. And I think it's one that we shouldn't really worry about getting over the line. Okay, we've gone in there, typical Celtic, as I know, be told, we've gone in there with a low ball offer. And obviously it's Norwich's prerogative to try and hold out and get the maximum funds they can. I think anything under the kind of 7-8 million mark would be more than worth it for ADAM IDAH. So I would like to see us show a real statement of intent, get that first signing across the line. It's one that I think a lot of us expected anyway, because we knew that Brendan likes and rates the player. But I do think it's a big impact signing as well. It's a player that can come in and actually do the, he can do the job sometimes that maybe if it's Kyogo's going to be our first choice striker, can do the job that Kyogo can't do. Maybe that's slightly more physical, come a bit deeper, play the kind of target man role, a little bit like the Chris Sutton role, that kind of thing. So yeah, for me, good signing. Let's not dawdle. If we've had one offer rejected, but I believe talks are still continuing and progressing well, let's get it over the line, get it done, and bring the big band back to paradise.
When I heard about it, Lawrence, listen, it would be easy for us to say there's the penny pinching Celtic board, and we could jump on that old bandwagon. And yesterday, a few people in the comments, tongue in cheek, I hope, were calling me a cheerleader for no getting stuck in about the board and all this kind of stuff. But my take on this one is, yes, we know how much money we've got in the bank, Lawrence. It's been well reported and well discussed. We know that we can afford a lot more than £4 million for a striker. I don't mind us going low with the first bid, safe in the knowledge that we do have the backup of, and I'm going to quote Patrick McGill, hunters of cash in the bank to go back in with a second and a third bid, knowing that maybe Norwich are looking for that £7 or £8 million. Lawrence, how do you feel about these things? I don't have an issue with it.
Listen, I think Celtic, they're well known for being hard negotiators. You know, just because we've got loads of money in the bank doesn't mean you become frivolous with cash all of a sudden and go, you know what, you want 8, take 9. You know, give him to him yesterday. Is he an £8 million player? I'm not too sure he is. You know, we paid what, 6 for Jota? Has he had the same kind of impact on the team as Jota had? So yeah, it'd be great to see him coming in. No problem at all. I'm bidding £4 million. If we end up paying 5, maybe 6, happy days. If we paid 8, I think we'd be looking about and seeing what else was out there for 8. So it's just a shame we didn't get the usual loan to buy on him. You know, if we'd had that, the deal would have been done, wouldn't it? It'd have been tied up. I think we're still. It's a bit of a loose end for last season that we want to get him in. There's a few players moving out already. And I think, you know, it'll be another couple of weeks before we really start in the transfer market in earnest. Really see some proper movement.
You know, the thing that you say there, Lawrence, you're right. The circumstances around the loan move were such that we didn't get that loan to buy agreement in place. And we know that there was interest from Serie A just prior to Celtic bringing him to the club. And there was a loan to buy option. And the option was £3.5 million at that time, Chris. So you take your chances. You do. You take your chances. And I think that the point Lawrence makes there, and I think a lot of people will share this, let us know in the comment section, in that if it goes up to a point where Norwich are looking for £8 million, right? If that's the case, because we know it's funny money down there, Chris. We know Championship clubs can offer bigger wages, etc., for squad players, right? We get it. But if it gets to that point and Celtic back off and Lawrence says there must be better out there for £8 million, the only thing I would say that would argue against that is we know IDAH can settle. We know that he knows the standards and the expectations of the club. He can play in front of 60,000. He can play in cup finals. He can play against Rangers. The one test, I guess, is a Champions League. We've not seen him at that level. So that's what I would say to that. You can spend big on a striker, and we've done it recently, and it's not worked out with Albi and Ayeti. And I don't think that we should always use that as a kind of barometer of success. But it might not work out, regardless of what they've done previously. We know what ADAM IDAH can do. And I think that JP and I, 2 Thursdays ago, maybe last Thursday, actually asked that question, Chris, do you go to 8? Because we're conditioned as Celtic fans to think, no, we don't spend that on a player.
We don't, but you've got, I think you make a great point there, and it's exactly what I was thinking as well. Look, we want to get players in, and we don't want to spend over the odds, but the fact is it's an inflated market down there. And what you get with IDAH is you get someone that presents a lower level of risk, because we've seen what he can do. You know, he's a player who comes in, knows the club, speaks the language, has played with the majority of players, has trained, you know, has worked under the coaches, manager rates him. So there's a lot of boxes checked already. Whereas you could pay 8 million, 9 million, 10 million, whatever it is, on a player. And I won't use Ayeti. I mean, I'll just use Torrey Andre Flo for a bit of fun. But the fact is that you bring a player in, and big money doesn't always equal success. It simply doesn't. And you're still taking a risk if you spend that much. From a fan's perspective, and I'll only speak for myself here, if we were to spend 8 million on a different player, and he comes in and he doesn't make the grade, he doesn't make the same impact that IDAH makes, can't play, you know, doesn't play well in Europe, does that, that then calls into question our ability to actually go and recruit and spend the right levels of money for the player that we need. And I think with IDAH, it's a no, you can't really lose with the situation. Okay, we spend 8 million, it's a big outlay, particularly for us in terms of what we've spent over the past few years. But you're getting a guy in that you know can come in and make a positive impact. And that's why, for me, it's a no-brainer, really. Like Lawrence, I would agree. I wouldn't go and spend silly money. I don't think we should ever be held to ransom by clubs. We've got to keep control of the finances, obviously. But 8 million, given the hunters of money equation, I think I would hedge my bets that the majority of fans would get that deal done rather than no, it's too much. So that's my view. I would get it done.
Now, at the same time, Lawrence, where does that leave us? We're going to be talking about the game tomorrow night, because I felt yesterday it was a very interesting conversation around what's the team going to be, right? And that kind of shows you where we are. Obviously, in the knowledge that there are other players still to come back because of international duty. But when you look at the situation, if we bring IDA in, right, we're still not at the point where we were when we finished last season, Lawrence, because we've lost Joe Hart, we've lost Paulo Bernardo, and at this moment in time, we've lost IDA. So we bring him in, you're only getting one of the blocks back in of 3 that we've lost. So you're still playing catch up, and I think then you announce a goalie, then we might be able to do a deal with Bernardo, but we're just basically pulling ourselves back up to that point where we were last season, Lawrence. And I think that's where some of the frustration and the worry comes in from the Celtic support, in the fact that we haven't done any business yet.
The Euros are on. There could be players at the Euros that we're looking at. And once they're finished the Euros, I suppose they might want some time off. Honestly,
what's that, Lawrence?
You
work about 8 days a week.
Mate,
oh, lucky boys.
But no, honestly, I think it'll be kind of mid-July to end of July when we do our serious business. I think they'll come in. I don't think we'll go anywhere near 8 million for opening with 4. I think 5.5 will probably
Where's the highest you would go, Lawrence?
Well, I think if we're opening at 4, we're going to end up doing a deal 5.5. It's been said that the Italian option to buy was 3.5. No, Norwich are going to know he's done well up here, and he's more of a known commodity to us now. So I think the board will push at 5.5, depending what the add-ons are. But if you're opening with 4, I can't see he's going to 8. Ever for him. But we wait and see. But I fully expect him to come in. I'd like to see Bernardo come in, but these Scottish press stories and his astronomical wages that are secret to Celtic, even though we were paying a portion of them. But I think there's time to get both those boys in. It's the keeper that's the main issue just now. You want a top quality keeper in. It's going to be really hard to get someone in a Hearts class. And, if Siegrist goes, you're probably looking at bringing in 2 keepers. So, I think we've been linked with 26 so far.
Is that all?
Yeah, but I think there's time to get a decent keeper in before the end of July, mate. So, Haksabanovic is off, Toko going, Teal's out on loan again. So, we're generating some money and getting some players out we don't need. So, I honestly think it'll be kind of the middle of July to the end of July when we'll start doing a serious business.
I'm going to take a couple of the points Lawrence has made there, Chris, and throw them over to you, right? The first one being, Lawrence quite rightly says we're going to need 2 goalies. Let's start with that. I'll come back to IDA in a moment, because IDA, as I say, the deal and the negotiations are ongoing, as are the negotiations to move O on, presumably to Genk, and for £4.2 million, tidy bit of profit there for O. Brendan obviously doesn't fancy him, but that would also mean to me, Chris, that you need 2 strikers in this window. You've got to run with 3. I'm going to go back to a game that Lawrence and I covered a few Boxing Days ago, where Joey Dawson came on as a substitute, because he was all we had when Kyogo went off injured. He was the only guy we had available at that time. We can't run with 2 strikers. And I know we've always had that fallback on, but Maeda can play through the middle and Abada can play through the middle. Well, Abada's gone. Is Maeda centre forward? I think we do just fine where Maeda is on the left wing, to be honest with you. I think he's effective enough there. Fair enough if he can, fill in. But, let's not do it on the cheap. Let's have 3 strikers. And it means that even if we get Ido over the line, the second striker is not as much a priority as a goalie, left back, left centre back. I get it. But we still need another striker.
Yeah, I agree. Look, it's the nature of the club and the league we play in, and the level of strength we've got in comparison to our rivals, that we're usually competing on a minimum of 3 fronts, sometimes 4 fronts throughout a season. We've got the league, we've got the 2 domestic cup competitions, and we've got Europe for hopefully a longer portion than usual this upcoming season. So you need a squad, you need squad depth, but squad depth has to be married with enough quality and capability to keep your momentum high, to keep your standards high, and to keep you competitive. And again, the most challenging level there is going to be the Champions League. We're going to be playing against top teams week in, week out, and we can't really afford to take that too casually. And unfortunately, the only way you do compete is you have to spend a bit of money. So I think, look, we've got a diamond in Kyogo. We know that. He's proven it over 3 seasons. Yeah, last season was probably his least effective, but you take into account all the change around the club, new system, new manager, some new teammates. So you can account for some of that. But I still think Kyogo at the moment, at 29 years old, more valuable to us at the club and on the pitch than he would be in terms of an outgoing transfer. So he's in. Either comes in, again, we know what he can do, good foil for Kyogo, allows us to play a slightly different system or have that plan B, which we've been crying out for about four or 5 seasons. So that's 2 striking positions. We don't know what the situation is with O. I don't think, I believe is it Johnny Kenny's going out on loan again. Seems to be doing well, but maybe, do we see him taking a step up at this point? Probably not. So I think you need another, whether it's an up-and-coming striker, someone you can develop, or you need maybe someone in there more like a relief striker, someone that's maybe a bit more tenured, possibly coming to the end of their career, but can still do a job, and come in and help us out. So what you want is you want to have your main striker, if that's the system we're going to play with, one up front, your main striker, somebody can come in, be your plan B, and then that kind of relief striker, someone that comes in and can maybe close out games or grab you a late goal. But as you've rightly said, there's positions all over the park. Goalkeeping is paramount. Right, and I'm hoping the fact that we're not hearing much on that front means that they're really doing their scrutiny around the requirements we need at the back. They're looking for someone that really fits the mould and fits the profile. We've heard all sorts of names mentioned, from Kelleher to the Turkish goalkeeper. I think I've even heard it being tempted to link to the goalkeeper that played for Portugal the other night, which is just a non-starter, right? But it's what the Euros allows you to do. You can kind of fantasize about the type of players you can bring in. Ultimately, it's going to be a player who can at least rival the stature and the performances of Joe Hart. And we've been very fortunate over the past few years, maybe Barkas aside, that we've had 4 or 5 really top goalkeepers in the past decade or so, with Fraser Forster, Arthur Norwich, Craig Gordon, and now Joe Hart. So we want to keep that standard high and have a real leader and a real high performer at the back. And there's, as you say, we've lost a fair amount of players over the past 2 seasons, real high quality players.
Yeah.
One of our biggest achievements this year is if we can keep Matt O'Reilly for another year. I tell you, you talk about statement of intent through signings. You keep Matt O'Reilly and you build the team around him for at least one more season. That's a statement of intent, and I tell you, that would be well received by the supporters.
It's a massive statement of intent to keep your top player, and I think that if we come out of the window, that's great. I think parallel to that, at the same time as that, you're trimming your squad of non-contributing players, and you're strengthening the squad, because that point we keep going back to. Yes, people say Brendan Rodgers inherited a treble-winning team. Yes, he did, but we know that some of those guys are gone, and we've listed them often enough. And if you think about it, players who were pivotal to the success under Ange Postecoglou, who have now gone: Joe Hart, Lee Labada, Carl Starfelt, Jota, Moy, Juranovic, Giakoumakis. That's 7 players. And have they been replaced with the similar or the same standard of player? Alistair Johnson possibly has done that. What about the rest of them? And I think that's where we saw an issue last season, because what you had to do is you had to dip into your transfers that you brought in the summer, and they had to come into the team and make that similar impact, and they didn't do it. And that's where we saw the fall off. Brendan Rodgers then goes to a group of players that he trusted, and he got us over the line. But we must improve the squad. So we're -3 at the moment. We're -3 in terms of first team starters just now. I'm going to jump back a wee bit to a name that I think Lawrence mentioned earlier on, Benji Siegrist, right? And I've got my take on this. I'm going to put Benji Siegrist in the same category as Alexandro Bernabe and Said Haksabanovic. Don't mess with the gaffer, right? So Siegrist has already announced on the socials that he's not coming back, right? Not going to come back. He's away to Australia. He's away. He's gone. Not coming back. It's quite clear he's been told, actually, we still employ you, mate. You will be getting back, and you'll be doing the old pre-season as well, because he's back in training, Lawrence. And I don't think I'm looking too much into this. I just think that the way Rodgers approaches these situations, where it's, the player thinking that they're bigger than the club, i.e., Haksabanovic putting out his Instagram posts to say that he's unhappy because people don't rate him, and then having a wee fly dig at Brendan on his way out. Brendan does not tolerate this, and I think it's tremendous. I really do. In the modern game, we don't see enough of it, Lawrence.
Listen, you still get Brendan on the way out, you know. The board want to stay, but the manager doesn't. Well, if that's the case, mate, that's why you're leaving, and it's really the manager that we want to be running the football team. So I think we're all happy with that then. And I think it was a player that was turned because we could make a profit on him. You know, we got him relatively cheap because of troubles in the world. And we were hoping then maybe have a good 6 months and sell one and make a few million on him. So, will I miss him? Probably not, mate. You know, Haksabanovic, there's been many like him before, and there'll be quite a few to come. But yeah, great memories. Could have won as a penalty at Kilmarnock if VAR had been doing its job in the League Cup and kept Brendan's perfect cup record going. But unfortunately, yeah, the VAR didn't do it. But yeah, you know, Brendan's not going to be messed about. You know, he's an elite manager. He's not going to fall for the mind games of players, which is what we need. You know, you want the manager to be in charge. You don't want the dressing room turning on your manager or thinking they can tell the manager what happens or they can pick a team. So, yeah, happy days. I tell you, out the list of players that you left, if Starfelt's available to come back, mate, at 2 million, that'd be a no-brainer for me. The partnership he's got with Carter Vickers, it's proven.
Yeah.
You know, we could probably do with bringing in a couple of centre-halves. Get him in, even if he's third choice, and you can still look for somebody partner Carter Vickers, somebody better, but you're not under as much pressure then.
I don't think it's a bad idea, Lawrence, and I know we've spoken on here about never go back. You know, there was all that chat around various ex-Celts being linked to the club. Never go back, never bring them back. It's never the same. But Carl Starfelt does seem like a bit of a low-maintenance, no-brainer of a transfer, Chris. I mean, I don't know how much truth is in it, but as Lawrence says, he's one of the guys who would just click back in. He knows the club. Whether or not Jacinta would come with him, I don't know.
I think it's split up, mate. I heard it split up.
Oh, Lawrence. Dear me. Love's young dream. Yes, well, I come back then, Carol. You're fine. No ties. Let's have a wee look at some of the comments coming through. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved. I'm going to start off with Gordon Coney. Thanks for getting in on the chat. Afternoon, Acsom. We'd like to give my condolences to the Burns family at this difficult time. Sometimes you don't even feel that the words are enough, do you? But you just want the family and friends to know that you're thinking of them. They are in your thoughts. Half man, half pie. What do you mean up the ante? Offer a supper rather than a single fish. Might as well, it's Thursday, mate. Might as well go for the meal deal and add in a packet of McCoys and a can of pineapple aid. A can of pineapple aid. Who was the juice fan? Who was the juice fan that came around your street when you were younger, Chris?
Alpine.
Oh,
was it Alpine?
Alpine in Glasgow, the ice cream vans, but I don't know if they were famous for juice or something else.
No,
let's not go there. That's a podcast all in itself, that one, Lawrence. In Fife, Woodrose was one of the juice fans, right? And I spent a wee bit of my time in the Lothians due to the old fella's work, and it was Bon Accord. Bon Accord was the juice fan. There you go. What about yourself, Chris?
I just remember. I'm trying to remember. It was the ginger bottles, as it used to be called. But there was one my dad introduced me to when I was really young, and it was one that I don't know if you can still get it. It was called Dunsaid. I don't know if you guys remember Dunsaid.
Mate, I know the one that's got
it was a weird hybrid between Iron Brew and Tizer. But it was absolutely delicious. But yeah, I can't remember who it was that used to come around our area. It'd be down the Crowfoot area rather. So whoever that was, but I just remember going out and getting a 10p mixture, and a 10p mixture actually cost 10p and no like a £5 these days or whatever it is.
And of course, bars who were involved in the very earliest days of Celtic Football Club. There you go. I've just pulled it right back into Celtic for anybody wondering why we're talking about ginger on a Celtic State of Mind.
Duns was all Clyde, wasn't it? After all, Duns was all Clyde. I think they owned Clyde.
It's interesting to see if anybody in the comments remembers that. But yeah, I think it was definitely around about, must have been the 70s and 80s. The old glass bottles that you could trade back in.
The glass bottles, mate. You're right. You traded them back in, and we had a wine rack in our kitchen, but nobody was sophisticated enough to drink wine, and we had the juice bottles. Absolutely, yes. 1980s household, absolutely. Here we go. Magnet 67, welcome to the show. Afternoon, Acsom team. Surely the board have learnt the lesson from the McGinn debacle.
That's a good point.
Right, I'm just waiting because there's obviously a moment of reflection. I mean, there will come a time where we don't speak about John McGinn, right? Will there? Or Stephen Fletcher? Because let's be honest. We had this chat yesterday. I'm going to come to you on this one, Lawrence, right? Because people just think you're naive to suggest Peter Lawwell's got nothing to do with the transfers here, right? Naivety, cheerleading.
He's been at the club, I don't know, for what, 24 years or something. I hope he had something to do with it.
What's the chairman got to do with buying football players?
Yes. Well, we've got great the trading model, and I don't think anything's going to get signed off without Peter signing it off. And even if Michael's only going to for advice, listen, how do we structure these deals? What are these guys like to deal with? What's this agent like? You know, what's the best way to do it? I got no problem with him getting involved, mate. And I think, you know, John McGinn and Fletcher sometimes, it's the one that got away, you know. Look at that, we could have had him. There's many others that have got away that went on to nothing, and they're probably quite happy they got away. But we don't talk about them because, you know, they went on to nothing. And I guess, you know, signings aren't an exact science, but if you bought everyone that got away, we'd maybe be struggling for money and looking for somewhere to play like some other clubs. But we're not, you know, we're well run. You know, it's been great to get McGinn. But by and large, I think in the transfer market over the last 20 years, we've done well. You know, we have a great player trading model. Yeah, we'll always see off McGinn. We could have had him. John McGinn at Villa, was he the John McGinn at Hibs? Was he the same standard of player then? Has gone to Aston Villa, raised his game? You know, been exposed to playing in a higher league? You know, potentially.
Absolutely has, yeah.
But I tell you who I look at, mate, yeah, we're short up front. Yeah, Memphis Depay is on a free transfer, can play wide as well. You know, yeah, I think, you know, we want to make a statement signing. Look at bringing him in.
Wait, age is he now, Lawrence? Is he 30 plus?
30.
30. So still got
26, still, you know, 2 or 3 seasons left.
Right. Again, though, that would be going against the model that you've just been
money
praising.
off, mate. Writing money off.
Well, Ronnie Glavin, welcome to the show. A familiar name and among Celtic circles. The board will try another 3 or 4 derogatory low ball offers for IDA. All their effort and time going into that, then left without any time to get an alternative option. Right. But I'm going to go back to Lawrence, and it's not because I'm defending the board, absolutely not. You just need to look at some of the headlines over the last 7 years on a Celtic State of Mind to know that that's not my game here. I'm just looking at the situation for what it is. Celtic are going to be looking at, I'm sure, Chris, that initial loan to buy deal that was being discussed and was quite far down the line. Was it Verona? It was meant to be going to in January. And obviously it's broken down. And the option was 3.5. And I think what Celtic are doing is they're just setting a stall out. They're thinking, right, you know, if we offer 4 million, you know we're never going to go to 8. And we're probably not going to go to 7. And we might push it to 6.5. But we're going to start with 4. So we can be critical of them, Chris, but if we get the deal done, and it looks as though we will get the deal done, and you know that we've got some in the bank to up the ante, as we say in the headline, then we won't worry about the first offer, will we?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think many transfers are concluded on the opening bid. To be honest, I think there's negotiation room. There has to be. There's all sorts of different caveats and contract elements as well.
Caveat. That's a good Acsom word. That is the most overused. Caveat. There we go.
Caveat. I'll get that on the same T-shirt with attributes on it, or attributes as I used to say and used to get slaughtered for. But yeah, I think what you do, you expect us to go in with an opening offer now, like because of our history, because of the frustration we've had over recruitment, going back to McGinn. I know it's one that everybody goes back to, but I'm sure there's lots of deals that we failed to go over the line because we've either been priced out of the deal or we've simply not been prepared to go to a certain level. That's part of the whole negotiation process, right? That's, you know, everybody, you know, doesn't need me to tell them, you know, everybody's familiar how that works. What I like about what we've seen with IDA is we're actually getting insight into the fact that a deal is in progress of being done. I mean, I'm fully confident that IDA will go over the line. I like the fact that we've heard about, you know, moves being made in the transfer window. That's great. That placates me a little bit. It takes away a little bit of the trepidation that we've had. But we can't leave it there. That's not the only thing that we want to see as fans. We want to see more moves. IDA, for me, was an obvious one. It was one that was always going to happen to be honest. I never had any doubt that Idah wouldn't be coming back to Celtic. Just all the stars seem to align with it. Now what we want to see is okay, those positions that we need to fill, the goalkeeper, another left back, midfielder, if it's Bernardo coming in as well, that's fine. I still think we want to see more ambition, more signs that we're really going to try and make a dent and be competitive in Europe, and we're going to continue domination domestically. We'll never have a better opportunity to move further away from our rivals than what's happening over there. I mean, the only player they're going to sign is that Dutch guy, Bob de Builder, at the moment. So we'll wait and see what happens there. I mean, honestly, if they were an ice cream flavour, they'd be Hagland as with the amount of stuff that's going on over there just now. So this is our opportunity to go and make some signings to take us just up that level a little bit. And look, we have to be grateful for what the board has done with the club. They've kept us in a really strong financial position, and that's fantastic. We're not having all the worries and the doubts that the rivals across the water have now. I'm grateful for that as a Celtic fan. But week in, week out, what I care about is what's going on the park. Who's playing, how well they're playing, what standard are we hitting. We've got ourselves into a strong financial position, but it's a football club. That means that we're in a position now to invest in the footballing element of that club. And I love to see the infrastructure stuff, love to see the youth, the development youth, the Barrowfield, all great stuff. But as a supporter, I want to see it on the pitch. I want to see it reflected on the pitch. Longer term, we'll see the youth development hopefully coming through. We'll get a higher quality of young player coming in and making an impact in the first team. But the immediate term, let's use some of this hard-earned wealth and all this successful business modelling that we've had, and let's invest it on the players in the park. Get a bit of quality in, take a little bit of risk, and look what the rewards might get us.
Yeah, I've spoken about a cycle, Chris, and absolutely agree with what you and Lawrence have both said today about the way the club is run. I get it 100%, but there comes a point in that cycle where sometimes you have to do things a wee bit differently. And it's a bit of speculation. Now, I'm going to go back to your point, Lawrence, on McGinn, because, yes, there is no exact science to transfers, or every club would do it perfectly, and that's not the case. I mean, I listed £56 million worth of transfers from 2010 to the beginning of last season, not including last season's transfers, of buys who came in, never played 50 games for Celtic. So, they weren't worth the money. 56 million quid. But that's always going to happen.
You had Kamal in there, we turned a profit on him. We're going to get guys like that come in.
Lawrence, the point of the matter is we don't get it right all the time. And £56 million, Klamala, right, we might have got our money back on him. Turning a profit, that's debatable. Getting your money back on the player, was he a success at Celtic?
But not everyone's going to be. You've touched on it. But if you get a player in, you turn a profit on him. You're going, well, it's going to happen. It's better than getting him in and nothing happens with him and you pay him.
My point on McGinn.
He came in as a third striker, mate. Scored a few goals for us.
I'm talking about McGinn, not Klamala. I'm talking about McGinn here, right? So the point on McGinn is the impact that has on the manager's relationship with the money men at Celtic Football Club. And it had a huge impact on Brendan Rodgers, as did Castagni, as did Puccini. So if a player is wanted by the manager, i.e. in this case, ADAM IDAH, he's not then negotiating. He's then saying, over to you guys, get the deal done. And that's where the damage can be done. John McGinn has absolutely improved and progressed and developed as a player because of the league that he's playing in. We weren't getting the same version of the player when we bought him. Forget all that. Brendan Rodgers wanted him, didn't get him. That's the issue. He wants IDAH and he needs to get him. Because if he doesn't, then there's other people at the club not doing their bit and getting a transfer deal over the line. And that can be more damaging than making money or losing money on a deal.
Can be, mate, but I think Brendan's pragmatic enough to know that, if they could say we're going to hold out for 10 million for IDAH, I think Brendan would be going, what else can I get for 10 million? I don't think he's getting him at all costs. Yes, we like him, but he'll realise that he has a value, and we don't want to be pushed over and above his value. And if Leicester were willing to let him go at, Norwich were willing to let him go at 3.5, why should we not be going up to 8? It's a huge climb to go up to 130-something% rise in his value. I think Brendan would be saying, yeah, if we're going up to 8 million, let me have a look and see who else is on your list at strikers at that level.
Okay, Chris Julian was signed for $7 million. Was he worth it?
Julian, I liked his performances on the park. I don't think Ange liked him too much, mate. When he went play through the pain barrier for him, I think we get rid of him too quickly. I know that'd have been a good partnership, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Julian, but I think Ange get rid of him too quickly.
Well, I think we lost £7 million on him. He was a success in the amount of games that he played, the successes that we had whilst he was at the football club. He won us the League Cup, but we paid £7 million for him 4 or 5 years ago. So £8 million. This is the thing. It's like we're conditioned into thinking £8 million is going to break the bank. It's not really. Celtic can afford that, and if a Championship striker is going for £8 million, I think it's, why haggle over £1 million or £1.5 million here? Buy him.
I would be going to $8 million for him, mate. I'd be having a look and see what else you could get.
Then I think it's a wee bit of a step back to, right, we need to start again. Although Miovski hasn't been discussed yet. I don't know what the price tag on Miovski would be and whether or not Celtic are still interested in him. I still think we need 2 strikers this window, and they're the 2 guys I'd go out and get. Henrik Molassen, derisory offer, typical Celtic. There's a lot of comments coming in just like that. And Sinan Short is saying afternoon troops from Dublin. A big shout out to you as well. Jonathan Brown, we will find out a lot about the direction of the board this summer if we sign IDAH or not. And Andy Lee comes in to say, don't worry if you don't like the kit. There will be another along in a week or 2. Yeah, absolutely. We will be expecting 4 all in plus all the training gear as well. And if it didn't sell, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't release it. And yeah, it gives you a wee bit of variety as well, just coming into the summer holidays. Now, I sent out a wee team there. We discussed it yesterday, guys, about the strongest team. Not the team you think Brendan's going to play, the strongest team that Brendan can play tomorrow night, right? Based on the guys that's at his disposal and available. Now, I've got to give a shout out to Jerry Taylor for tomorrow night because he's commentating on the game. Double denim. He is commentating for Ayr United TV for the Ayr versus Celtic game. How good is that?
I think that's brilliant. He's obviously, right in with Bruni. Bruni's obviously made a few things happen for him. But do you know what? That's brilliant. That's what Jerry just brings that sort of thing to the table. He's got the persona. He's got the charisma. He definitely carry it away. I think it'd be brilliant. I would honestly rather listen to Jerry's commentary tomorrow than be at the game. I think it'd be excellent. So no, good on.
Are you telling people to tune in Ayr United TV rather than
just for
Acsom?
Just one time. Listen, I'm trying to get back in with Ayr after what I said a few weeks back, if you remember.
You upset a few people. I'm going to have a look. I'm going to have a look to see how much football Julien's played actually since he left us, because we were struggling to get a tune out of him near the end, get a game out of him. And as you say, he was surplus to requirements. So, Lawrence, I spoke about it yesterday and we had a wee chat about the strongest possible team. I had to think about it as well because we were struggling for some of the positions. And then I was dipping into the B team. But here's my team, Lawrence. I'm going to throw my team to you first and you tell me what you think, right? And this is based on the strongest team we can play tomorrow night, based on the players we have available, right? So, Scott Baines in goals. Unless you want to play Segrist. I don't see it happening.
Backup keeper 5 years ago. I'm not even too sure he's backup level now, but yeah, that's who we've got to play.
Strongest goalie. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Right now? I mean, I think if Jerry wasn't on commentary, I'd have him in goal, to be honest.
I'm sure Jerry will mention that he played for Celtic last season under Brendan Rodgers. I had a wee rethink about the defence, though, because I had a few of the B team in here. And I recalled that Stephen Welsh actually can play right back and played right back when he was loaned out to Morton before we pulled him back into the first team side. I'm going to play Stephen Welsh at right back, okay? Left back, I'm playing Scalesy because according to Brendan Rodgers, Scales is our backup left back, or was last season. And I'm going to play Nawrocki and Lagerbielke. Now, I didn't see Nawrocki at pre-season training, but I did see Lagerbielke, and there's no reason that Nawrocki wouldn't be there and wouldn't be fit. So there's my defence. Welsh, Scales, Nawrocki, Lagerbielke, Lawrence Conley. Would you play anyone different? Do you think there's a stronger option in there?
Probably play Nawrocki and Scales in the middle and change at left back would be Montgomery. To see what he's got. I don't know, but he'll probably go on loan again, but just see what he's got. See what the time out of the club's done him. No, it's United, it's friendly, isn't it?
It is, but I'm just talking strongest team here because I think Brendan's done that in the past, hasn't he? He's played a strong side in a kind of bounce game.
I think I'm not too sure if Lagerbielke struggled in Scales in the centre defence, mate. So, yeah, on that, I'd probably stick with Scales and Narovsky.
And you're playing Monty.
Yeah, listen, he done all right under Ange. He looks okay at St Johnstone. It'd be good to see what he does in a better team. You know, whether he's worth keeping round about, you know, although it's friendly, you know, it'll be competitive. And it might shape Brendan's thoughts on him, you know, if he can pull up performance.
Yeah, we shall see. The midfield three, sorry, come to you first, Chris. My defence of Welsh, Scales, Navrosky, Lagerbielke. Lawrence is swapping the left back and playing Montgomery, pushing Scales in place of Lagerbielke. How would you line up?
I mean, we saw last season that Lagerbielke is definitely not in favour with Rodgers, so he's going to have a hell of a pre-season, I think, to get anywhere near the team, even with the players that are currently available. I would probably agree with Lawrence that I think Scales and Navrosky, your centre-back pairing. I like the idea of Montgomery coming in because I've heard good things about him. Welsh at right back, that's an interesting one. Maybe uncover a potential backup there on the right back style. I always think Welsh likes a wee bit of pace on the turn. To be honest, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I'd probably say I agree with Lawrence. I think Montgomery, Welsh, and I'd say Scales and Navrosky. I think Scales for me. I know Brendan says he's the backup left back, but his best position, and I'm not saying he's the best centre back at the club. You know, I'm still hoping we get maybe a stronger player there. But for the moment, he's your left-sided centre back.
Yeah, midfield could be strong. We've got Hatate, Awata, and O'Reilly available. I'm not saying that he'll play it, but in terms of the strongest midfield, Lawrence, those three guys are available. I'd play them.
Yeah, the strongest that's available. Yeah, probably play them. I wouldn't mind seeing Bosun Law getting some time.
I was going to say
tomorrow night, you know, and see if he can do it in midfield for us. I know, you know, Ayr United's not the strongest test, but at least it'll give us a close-up view of the Celtic team in a competitive match. But, you know, I think Ayr United will be going all out to pull off a result. So, yeah, start with those three. See Law come in at some point.
Yeah. Chris, what about yourself? I mean, you've seen Odin Holm in the training videos. Obviously, Kwon was directing traffic in the car park. You saw him. There are other options. Would you play anybody different?
Well, like Lawrence, I would like to see Bosun Lawal. I think you send a player out on loan to hopefully give him that first team exposure, give him a good run of games, and get a bit of sharpness. And by all accounts, I know before anyone jumps in the comments, I appreciate the level he was playing at down at Fleetwood. But ultimately, he was getting, you know, accolade after accolade after accolade, praise after praise. I would like to see what effect that's had on him based on how we saw him previously in the B team and you know, in a few pre-season games last year. So I'd quite like to see Lawal come in and play either from the start or midway through. Holmes, another one where I think we've not seen enough to make a reasonable judgment on him. I mean, I think we know what Awata can do. So as much as I think Awata's probably the strongest option for that kind of number 6 role, I would quite like to see maybe Holm come in as well. I haven't been massively impressed with him when I've seen him, but I just don't think we've seen enough to make a fair judgment on the boy. And obviously that's with the caveat again, of, you know, not being able to see him in training week in, week out. So I wouldn't mind seeing Owen. But I think if you were talking about the strongest team at the moment, I think Awata takes that number 6 position. O'Reilly and Hatate obviously take on the other 2 positions. So yeah, I think that's the midfield.
I think the locals would be happy with that midfield coming out. The game is long, sold out. Then it gets a wee bit interesting because obviously Kyogo's available, Lawrence. Palmer's available, Kunis. Tillio's not. He's, as you said at the top of the show, he's had his loan extended over in Australia. Will he come back? Who knows? Who else is available on the wings? Mikey Johnson?
God. Don't play, mate. He'll get injured and we won't get any money from him.
Are we saving him seriously for maybe part of the IDA deal? I see that making sense.
I think we're saving him for selling him. I wouldn't put him at risk, mate. Not at all. I don't even know if he's stronger than him. You know, Kyogo starts. I think Kuno will start. Yeah. Yeah, probably, pal. I just wouldn't risk Johnson, mate. You know, if you get 2 or 3 million for him, happy days. Why would you risk that in a friendly?
See the thing there, right? I think that's a good point, right? Again, going back to championship level transfer fees, right? So Mikey Johnson goes down there and he does brilliantly well. We've seen him for West Brom. It was great to see. It was great to see how he had been kind of embraced by the West Brom fans. Seemed to be on fire, and obviously a massive part of that will be the confidence aspect of it, letting it kind of take the shackles off a wee bit, I guess. But if, for example, right, because we don't know for sure what Norwich their expectations are or for Adam IDAH, if they were, let's say they were looking for 7 or 8 million quid loans for Adam IDAH, and we would be expecting, or we would accept 2 or 3 for it for Mikey Johnson, that doesn't really balance out, does it? Because Johnson's gone down there, he's made a massive impact. He's also a Republic of Ireland internationalist. He's in the same kind of age bracket. Surely there needs to be more of a balance with the values.
Yeah, maybe that's why we bid 4 million and not 8. You would like to think so, but I think it's clear that he's got no future at Celtic. But he's got 2 years left in his deal. I think Adam's maybe got 3 or 4 at Norwich. So I think that'll come into it as well, being on a longer contract. So I don't think we'll ever get as much for an English-based player. Unfortunately, it's very rare that we would get that. You know, when we sell players down there, even look what we sold Van Dijk for, absolute outstanding player. And you're thinking, and then a few seasons later at Southampton, he's going to Liverpool for what, 80 million. I just think it's how the Scottish League is perceived and players coming from here. And I get that he's done it down there in the Championship, but I'd be surprised if he went for over 4, Mikey Johnson. But we'll wait and see.
Use him
it's 2 years he's got left. It's 1 or 2 years he's got left, isn't it?
Yeah. Use him as a make weight in the IDAH deal.
Mate, that'd be great, wouldn't it? You know, that'd suit us. Hopefully, it'd suit Mikey, because Mikey's got to go to Norwich, isn't he? For that to happen.
I think again, when you look at how he was not out of his depth when he went to that level of football, it must be on his mind. It takes a certain individual to be able to do it for Celtic, even though he's come through the ranks. Sometimes that jersey can weigh heavy on the shoulders of players, Chris. I don't know, but all I do know is that for the last 7 pre-seasons on a Celtic State of Mind, we have discussed Mikey Johnson and the fact that this is the last chance saloon, to the point where it's become something of a meme on in the world of Acsom. There has to come a resolution here. There needs to come an end point where you say, you know what, Mikey, there's an opportunity we didn't think you were going to have. They're in the Championship. We want this player. You could go there. Even if it is 3, and I just think, Lawrence, not so much the IDAH thing, I just think we're undervaluing our own player. If they want 7 or 8 for IDAH, and we're going to accept 2 or 3 for Mikey, we are undervaluing our own player there, surely, Chris.
Yeah, I think we're not only undervaluing him, we're also undervaluing the investment in Mikey Johnson, because we've had him at the club for, I think, as you said, about 7, 8 years now. So, you know, we've invested in his training, we've invested in his development, we've sent him out on loan. He's became an internationalist during that time. So we're not just undervaluing in terms of what he's already demonstrated in this past season on loan, but we're also undervaluing the fact we've invested so much in this player. So I think we're entitled to try and get some of that back. I mean, look, I like you, I don't bear any ill will towards Mikey Johnson. Look, he's a player, he's trying to take his opportunity, and for whatever reason, he's just not been able to do it in a Celtic shirt. And I'm sure that's as frustrating for him as it is for us. When I compare him to, say, Bosun Lawal, you know, both of them on loan, both of them having pretty big impact, you know, coming back up to the club, hopefully full of confidence. But the big difference is Mikey's done that 2 or 3 times and still not been able to step up and make the grade. We've not really given Bosun Lawal the chance yet, you know, and hopefully he'll, you know, come in and actually be able to make the grade and take the step up. But I think now is the time, from a pure footballing standpoint, let's recoup as much as we can of that investment in Mikey Johnson, either as using him as part of a deal and something that benefits the player as well, or selling him to a club that meets our valuation. But I don't think, similar to, you know, people saying that we're maybe lowballing Norwich on IDAH, I don't think we should be lowballed with Mikey Johnson, because he has gone to a Championship club. He did perform week in, week out very, very well by all accounts, and we should value him appropriately.
Right. So who are you playing up top?
Kyogo. It has to be, for me, it has to be Kyogo, get some sharpness. I always think if strikers are playing, they're not injured, I think you play your first choice striker every chance you get. I know we obviously don't want to get injured, but I think strikers feed on sharpness. So I would get Kyogo in, hopefully get a few goals. And yeah, I think that's just a no-brainer. I wouldn't have minded maybe one of the younger guys coming in and maybe getting a wee cameo appearance, see what they can do. You know, maybe for another, another Andy Walker or another, Machiavelli, something like that.
Let's talk about that for a moment then, right? So yesterday, you may have noticed that there's a Friday night show on our channel called This Is Acsom. This is a round table show where we bring in a guest, either an ex-Celtic player or someone from the world of music, the arts, film, who has a Celtic state of mind, and we sit down and we chew the fat. We chew the fat about Celtic upbringing, Celtic memories and experiences, but the Celtic of the here and now. And the conversation point around rearing our own players comes up without even pushing it. It comes up in every discussion, Lawrence. You've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of ex-players over the last few years as well. And the discussion point around youth, why not bring back the reserve league? All of these things keep coming up. Lawrence, did you get a chance to watch the Joe Miller one last week?
I did, yeah. Shelton Jim, mate. It was like, he's 41 and he's running the show, scoring goals, setting him up, Lex Bailey smashing him. You're like,
I know.
You're like, oh, it'd have been great, actually. I was thinking, geez, that'd be good to see Jinky come back in. But, and coming up and helping Joe in his own time, chapping Joe's door, asking, is he came out to learn?
Coming out for a game of football.
He's so much of the ball right up, but
yeah.
It's been a bit surreal for Joe. You're all kind of Jimmy Johnston chapping your door.
Surreal for Joe. Imagine what it was like for Joe's dad answering the door and Jimmy Johnston standing there.
Here's the thing.
I played against Jinky.
Probably. I was just going to say that, right? So Joe doesn't go bang on about it, but Joe Miller's dad played for Swindon Town, Crystal Palace and Hamilton Accies. And when he was at Hamilton, Rangers made an approach to sign him. I don't know where the negotiations broke down, Lawrence, but Rangers made an approach to sign him. So Joe came from good football and stock. There was a suggestion, Lawrence, we had that conversation that maybe Joe's dad was involved in that game over in Australia where George Best played for Celtic. Yep. Albert Kidd, Willie Wallace played for Celtic. They played against a side over there, which included Ben Doak's granddad. I love all these things. This is incredible. And of course, about a year ago, we found the guy who had recorded the game on an old camcorder, and we asked him, and he very gracefully did it. Put that on YouTube, mate. We need to see this footage. And there's George Best bouncing about in the centenary kit. I asked wee Joe off tape, Lawrence, and he confirmed that his dad wasn't in that team, unfortunately, because there is somebody in that team who looks like wee Joe Miller, who runs like Joe Miller, but apparently it's not his dad. So Joe Miller spoke about it, the Jinky thing. A couple of wee bits. We were talking about the Juice fans that you don't see these days, going up and down the streets and all that kind of stuff, right? It's a thing of the past. Can you imagine Jimmy Johnston coming into training and the coverage these days that would get? Everybody's got a camera on their phone, the press are there. That kind of thing back in the day, you're finding out about it 20, 30 years later. You've never seen a photograph, a grainy image in a paper. You've certainly never seen any footage of it. But that was one of the things that absolutely blew me away about wee Joe. Yesterday, as I say, we're going to go through, everybody that we've come into contact with who played with Celtic, was involved with Celtic. We've got some great guests lined up. Yesterday, we spoke to David Elliott. Now, David Elliott broke through under Billy McNeil in the late 80s, and he was part of the first team squad for a few years before moving to Partick Thistle. But he's got a great story in that he come through the ranks. He knew, the youth teams, the reserve teams. And you mentioned there, Chris, before about it'd be great to have a look at a striker. And we spoke about when was the last time Celtic produced a goal-scoring striker, right? And I've had this conversation before because in the early 80s, you'll remember it, Lawrence, Charlie Nicholas burst onto the scene. The guy was a goal machine. He was an absolute goal machine. And then even after that...
Out in the wing, mate, was banging him in his first season as well, Danny, wasn't he? Because he same season as Charlie came through. Scored in his old firm debut, Danny. What a first season he had. think
He did.
Australia, then he came back after that. I think he ended up playing Australia.
He played with Ange Postecoglou, believe it or not, in Australia. So Charlie Nicholas, prolific goal-scoring striker. And then the question is, who comes through next? So we were talking to David. David came through with a group of guys who were maybe a year younger, a year older, and all the rest of it. And the group of players he was talking about, Dougie Maguire. Anybody remember him? He played against Borussia Dortmund. We sold him to Coventry. Dougie McHarrison, who had a bounce game, Lawrence, with his mates and broke his leg.
Yep.
That was kind of his Celtic career over. Jerry Craney, Jerry Britton, Stevie Fulton, Mark Donaghy. But of that bunch there, you've got goal scorers. You've got Dougie McHarrison, Jerry Craney, Jerry Britton. We're not producing that type of player. Now, listen, people might say, listen, the guy's never made it at Celtic. Jerry Craney was probably the next goal-scoring striker that we produced after Charlie.
Probably. Who we had since? Butchell, Maloney.
People say Maloney. For me, Maloney was never a striker.
Oh, yeah.
Maloney was never a striker. But Mark Butchell was, promising to be the next one.
Yeah, I think it's... Obviously, we're bringing in more players from abroad, from outside the club. If you're bringing in more from outside, it makes it harder to make it inside. I think Simon's talked about this when he Simon Donnelly came through. He was a goal scorer when he came through.
We bought him from Queen's Park.
Queen's Park, along with Malcolm Mackay, mate. What age did we buy him at 17 or 18 or something, mate?
Yeah, well, he went on the ground star. So
yeah, he would have
been younger than 18.
Yeah, so younger than 18. Yeah, but he talks about the level of players that were coming in, and he thought, I'm just not going to hold my place down here. Van Hooydonk, Tom, Cadete. That was a frightening front three, for the options for you to have. And I think it's generally become harder for them to get through because scoring goals is essential to winning football matches. And see what we like, we have spent money on top strikers. You've had Hartson, Sutton, Arson. So we're willing to spend the money. Robbie Keane coming in on loan. So yeah,
Edouard,
Bailey. Yeah, I think it's much harder for them to break through now. But we'd all love it, to see somebody, like Simon's, was it Wraith Rovers scoring debut against?
Well, he made his debut against Hibs at Easter Road, and then he scored in the second game. He scored a double against Wraith Rovers. Midweek game. It was pelting down with rain at the time. Lou McCarry was the manager. And I just think, Lawrence, the point around rearing the youth, yes, we're developing Barrafield. That's obviously going to be a massive part of youth development. Being based there. Oh, there was a lot of steel when I drove past. In fact, I was doing at Ascot at the tournament last weekend, the Jimmy Johnson tournament. There was piles of steel. Piles and piles of steel down there. Seriously. Aye, a plethora of steel. A plethora. Right, so we were chatting about that. We were chatting about the reserves and youth development. It's a great chat, a great discussion with Davey. So tune in tomorrow at 6 o'clock for This Is Acsom. Who would you like to see joining us on the show? We've got a long list of ex-Celts and Celtic-minded guests.
Get Tony Curran on, mate. Even just for his story about his papa.
Remember that?
Jeez, what a claim to fame.
Absolutely.
But talk about kind of developing a youth. But if you're looking at the Jimmy Johnson academies, then just solely set up to develop youth. And not necessarily for Queen's Park, but for any club, I think it's organisations like that. It's great to see that somebody's putting that kind of funding in. Wonder why the SFA is not doing something similar, but. For the Jimmy Johnson Academy, there have been a number of players that made it. Dembele's brother.
Over 30 players have gone senior. Yeah, over 30 players have gone senior.
And anyone that goes senior, I think, is going to be a success, isn't it? That's the aim, to be a senior player. So I think that's great success from them.
No, brilliant. No, you're right. And you're right to give them the credit for that. And again, there's a whole discussion around the fact that the Jimmy Johnson Academy is going to have a mugger redeveloped there as well. And some of the funding from that's coming from the Johan Cruyff Foundation. And you think to yourself, why is the SFA not doing it? And there'll be other ones all over the country that are in a similar state of disrepair that require funding. Why isn't the SFA doing it to allow kids to go and play football. So there we go. Some more comments before we wrap it up. Leanne Campbell, great to see you on the chat. 7 million is their starting price. Wouldn't surprise me. I think they would accept 5 if we offered it, plus add-ons, I'm guessing, plus add-ons. Here's the thing, Magnet67, you're right, IDA has never played in Europe, but there comes a point where I think that from what I've seen, and obviously he's done it at international level, he's done it at championship level, and he's done it at SPFL level, right? He's done it at Premiership level in Scotland. Then there comes a point you look at a player and you think, can he step up? Can he do this in Europe? And I mean, you look at his career, he's never kicked a ball in Europe. I think he can. I think he's got the minerals. He's shown it at international level, and he's shown it with Celtic in the big games, in the biggest games that he has had the opportunity to play so far, and he's done it. So I would like to see him given that opportunity. Jonathan reckons that 6 million is not a lot for IDA. Surely the penny pinching board can stretch that far. Yeah, I'm sure they can stretch it without any doubt whatsoever. McLaughlin P, we don't really know if IDA can do it in Europe yet, really, do we?
Here's the thing, if IDA was coming up as a proven Champions League level striker, done it in Europe, we'd be looking
We're not
at
in a discussion.
We're not in a
discussion. Yeah.
So going right, it's not done it in Europe. Who can we afford that's proven at that level?
We've got to have that element of risk, Lawrence, haven't we?
Yeah. So I think you're looking at free transfers at that level. And honestly, I'd be having a chat with Memphis today and saying, well, look, what would it take for you to come over here as a striker? Him, Ida, and Kyogo. That'd be a good start of the season, with.
Have you been given some information on this? That's twice you've mentioned him today, Lawrence. Have you been given a wee sneaky WhatsApp from someone?
I can't say nothing on it, mate.
Insider.
I don't know. It's twice you brought it up. I mean, we're talking a guy who, when you look at the clubs that he's played for, his wage, because listen, we'll bring it up, right? The McKenna situation. A player goes to Nottingham Forest and is out of our wage bracket, right? He is. We spoke about it last week.
Totally.
High 30s. So if Depay has played for, who's he played for? Atletico Madrid, Man United, Barcelona. Aye, how could I forget? He's going to be away up 70, 80 grand a week.
Yeah, I think you'd be looking for about 80, mate, but you're not paying a signing on fee. How can you structure this? There'll be ways to structure it with you won't be paying a transfer fee, so pay him a bigger signing on fee and you can play it over 3 years of his contract. There'll be ways to structure it.
I think you'd upset the apple cart though if you bring a player in on that money, despite the fact he's coming in on a free transfer. He's going to be such a higher wage bracket than
mate. We've just lowballed Norwich at £4 million.
Yeah.
What makes you think we're going to bring him in?
80 grand for Memphis.
Yeah, I love to get somebody that quality in. We've got twice the number of Champions League games at least this season, which means we're going to need to seriously improve the quality we've got, mate. You want to at least go there and compete. A player like that's going to raise the standard within the squad. No doubt. I just don't think. And look what Moy brought as an experienced head. He's an experienced player as well. Look what Aaron Moy brought as an experienced head.
No, listen, I'm not against bringing some experience in. I just think that's going to be way beyond our wage bracket. Listen, I'll come back on and apologise if I'm wrong. It's happened in the past.
But I think the team, the recruitment team should be asking the question. They should be at least finding out what it would take before rolling it out. Okay, well, Adam IDAH, we're haggling over a fish supper over a single fish. We Adam IDAH, apparently. What makes you think debate? Listen, it's all about debate. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved in that debate. It's been a great wee chat, 1,500 strong on a Thursday afternoon. We've got our first game upon us tomorrow night. We will be covering it on a Celtic State of Mind. We're going to go head-to-head with Jerry Taylor. Honestly, head-to-head. Maybe you can switch between the two. We're not going to be covering the game live. We'll be doing half an hour before the kick-off, half-time 15 minutes, 30 minutes after the game. It's going to be our first action. Brendan Rodgers might throw a wee low bowler and play a young team. Who knows? But I get the sense he might play. He might just use it as a training game, get some minutes in some of the guys' legs who haven't played over the pre-season. You call it pre-season, it's just a matter of weeks. And I'm really looking forward to watching it as well. So come back and join us tomorrow night. Get involved in everything else we're doing. There's plenty of links underneath this video. We're doing a few live gigs coming up. Joe Ledley hasn't done much, but he's going to make his Acsom debut on the 26th of July.
He's also in Grangemouth the following night. Tickets underneath this video.
Fresh to the circuit as well. Yeah.
Fresh,
Sure.
yeah. I
But
mean,
he
will
was
he do
never
that
like-
dance?
Hopefully. Mate, it was never like, I always thought it's so defendable. Never less than a 7 out of 10. You know,
No, brilliant. A great signing.
and
Oh, he was brilliant. Yeah, absolutely excellent player. And he's going to be joined by Charlie Mulgrew the following night in Grangemouth. So 2 great nights coming up. Come along, get involved in the chat and the pattern, the crack and all that kind of stuff. And you'll see plenty of the Acsom team milling about as well. You can go and have a wee chat with him. Let us know about everything we've been discussing today. How high do you go for IDA? Do you go as high as 8? Do you think that's bizarre or mental to even think that we would go as high as that? Is 6.5 the ceiling? Do you go for Memphis Depay? That's a low bowler from the bold Lawrence. Chris is not believing it's going to happen.
Oh.
And what's your starting 11 for tomorrow night? Let us know in the comments field. Come back again tomorrow at 12:30. Thank you for Lawrence Conley and Chris McElwain for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.